Chapter 40, Mystical Spirit, Stragomagus. August slowly waned into the month of September. And even though it was early in the new month, the temperatures started to make a descent, and hot summer nights faded into cool autumn evenings. Celes was standing at the edge of the airship, her eyes closed as the wind gently blew against her body and fluttered her soft white cape. How long had it been since she had awoken on the solitary island? She had completely lost track of time since then, but it made her doubt all the more that Locke was waiting for her somewhere out there. Yes. It had been a while since she had let a thought cross her mind about him too, although that had been what she wanted, right? Celes. Celes blinked and turned around, where she saw Realm waiting for her, tapping her foot lightly. What? Celes asked, pulling her cape up more. I was calling your name, and you weren't listening. Realm said impatiently, and Celes sighed. I'm sorry. I have a lot on my mind. I know. Realm said gently, much to Celes's surprise. I can sort of understand what you're going through, with all this. Realm walked over to the edge of the deck, and gazed out at the ocean rushing beneath them. After a few moments of silence, Realm whispered. I miss Grandpa. I know, Realm. Celes replied, looking down at the girl with sad eyes. But he's got to be somewhere. Realm shook her head, gazing outward and away from Celes's gaze. Well, Celes, we all know Grandpa was a lot older than the rest of us. She started. And I doubt he could have made it through. Realm, don't say that. Celes cried. I know it is hard to have faith, but sometimes, it's all you have, and what has faith gotten us? Realm screamed, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. Look at what faith has gotten for the returners. She pointed out towards the dirted ocean, the crumbled lands beneath them. This is what we get for fighting and having faith. When I woke up, and saw all this, I thought I had really died, and that this was some sick purgatory. I wandered around for 2 years, Celes. 2 years. And I couldn't find anyone. And no one wanted to find me. She started to sob, and moan. Grandpa didn't come for me. And that can only mean one thing. It doesn't mean anything. Celes said. It doesn't mean he's dead, or he doesn't care about you. He might be waiting for you, Realm. For once, you just might have to take the lead and find him. That's all. Celes lowered her head, feeling a little ashamed. She had just been fretting about Locke the same way, but had not even considered her own advice. Whatever. Realm sniffled, and with that, stomped away to go below deck. Celes stared after her, and continued to watch the world pass beneath her. Her eyes focused, and she realized that they would soon be coming over the same continent. She had started out on the continent where she found Sabin, Edgar, and Chere. Chere. Celes trailed off, and bit her lip. I have to try again. I have to. With that, Celes turned and grabbed the wheel of the ship, turning off the autopilot. Carefully, like Setzer had once shown her, she landed the ship nearby Ma Bliz. As the Falcon touched the ground, Setzer and some of the others came up, curious. What's going on? Shadow asked gruffly.
I'm landing at Ma Bliz,
Celes replied.
I want to try to talk to Chere again. Are you sure that's a good idea?
Sabin asked, and Celes looked up at him.
We should at least check on her. She's the only grown-up in this forsaken city. Anything could have happened between the last time we saw her and now. I guess you're right,
Sabin said.
And in that case, I'll come. Me too,
Shadow grunted.
I want to know just exactly what Chere has gotten herself into. I'll stay here and watch over things,
Setzer said.
And let the others know what is going on.
With that, Celes, Sabin, and Shadow left the ship and began the short walk towards Ma Bliz. When Shadow saw the town for the first time, he didn't say much, although his eyes spoke volumes. Interceptor sniffed around various patches of grass, and at one point, started to howl. Celes and Sabin led Shadow downstairs through the abandoned post office to the underground hideout for the kids, where, unlike last time, they were warmly welcomed.
Hey, you guys are back,
the same bouncer boy from before announced.
Why are you back? Hey! Hey! Calm down!
A strong voice cried, and Dwayne appeared, looking more upset and disturbed than ever. He looked at Celes worriedly, and sighed.
I don't want the kids yelling. Katerin. She's ready to burst. But I don't know what to do.
He jumbled his words and thoughts, as if not knowing quite exactly what to think or say. He reached up and wiped his forehead.
I really don't know what to do. Ah, gods, why did this have to happen to me?
He suddenly burst past the returners, and Celes let out a slight gasp. The little kid looked confused, and a door opened, revealing Chere, in all her glory. She looked healthier than when Celes had last seen her, but still just not quite the same girl. She watched Dwayne run upstairs before locking her gaze on Celes's and smiling with tight lips.
Hey, you guys! I guess you already knew about Katerin's expectancy.
Celes bit down on her lip. Was that all Chere really had to say? Was she actually expecting them to just walk away this time, just like before? This wasn't a casual visit.
I'll go try to find Dwayne,
the little boy offered, and looked at Celes.
He's been running away a lot lately. He runs further and further every day, he tells me, but yet he always comes home. But one day, I think he'll really disappear.
Celes widened her eyes as the kid pushed past her, and Shadow and Sabin looked at each other.
He's gone again, hasn't he?
Now Katerin made her appearance, and Dwayne was right, she was about to burst. Her stomach looked so heavy and full, Celes thought the girl might topple over at any second. Katerin had a slight smile on her face, but Celes could tell she was about to burst into tears at any moment.
I'm so happy to have a child. But Dwayne seems miserable.
Katerin sniffled, and Chere patted her back.
Katerin, you know that you should really be in bed.
Chere offered gently.
It's dangerous for you to be walking around like this. What if you fell? Right.
Katerin sniffled again and turned, retreating to the sick room that Chere had been put to bed in the night Celes and Sabin had been in to see her. The door was pushed closed and locked, and after hearing the click, Chere finally turned to her friends.
Shadow! It's good to see you. Right.
Shadow said, and looked elsewhere. Chere sighed some, and looked to Celes and Sabin.
Are the others? Strago, Mog, and Locke are still missing,
Celes said.
But everyone else so far? They're okay,
Sabin offered.
We're all preparing for the final fight.
Chere bit down on her lip.
Things aren't good here. Funbaba has been coming by here more and more often. The children are restless, and scared. And Dwayne has almost abandoned Katerin several times. Her pregnancy is really starting to freak him out. Men.
Celes spat, and Shadow and Sabin looked at each other.
Hey. Ah.
Little feet came thundering down the stairs, and the same child who had run out to get Dwayne returned, panting for breath and screaming.
Funbaba is back. He's back.
He clung to Celes's cape, and started to howl.
Please, make Funbaba go away for good.
With that, he dashed away, and disappeared into the big children's room.
What?
Chere cried, her hand flying up to her mouth.
This makes twice today. Funbaba is back.
The group heard Katerin cry from inside the room.
But Dwayne is out there. Dwayne.
The door flew open, and Katerin came barreling out, gasping and crying as she ran towards the stairs.
Katerin!
Chere cried, and suddenly, Katerin tripped, and nearly fell face first on the stairs. However, Shadow dashed up to catch her just in time, and swung her up in his strong arms as she cried and whimpered hysterically. Setting her down by Chere, Chere snatched Katerin's hand and started to scold her.
Katerin! Think of your child, and get back to your hiding station.
The upstairs door slammed shut again, and more footsteps pounded down the stairs. This time, it was Dwayne, who immediately spotted Katerin and ran to her, sweeping her up in his arms and holding her close, nuzzling his nose to hers.
Katerin! I'm sorry. I didn't know how to handle this. I've been an awful husband. But I'm learning. Please. Will you take me back? Oh Dwayne!
Katerin cooed, and hugged him tightly.
Oh my gods, you cannot be serious!
Celes cried, and pried the lovers apart.
Did you forget Funbaba is out there? Go inside your room, and don't come out.
Everyone stared at Celes as she shuffled the two in their room, and yanked the door shut behind them. Celes then turned to Chere, who disappointed her with a delicate shrug and head shake.
Please. If you want to save this village. I just simply cannot fight.
Celes let out a huff, and without replying, whirled around and thumped up the stairs. Sabin looked back at Chere sadly as he followed her, and Shadow followed without a word. When Celes reached the surface, she heard the wind howling by and saw that the clouds in the sky had started to darken to a deep, angry grey. Thunder rolled through, and it was then that she heard it. Thump. 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 Funbaba pounded towards the returners, snarling and shaking his head, drool and slobber flying in every direction. Celes withdrew Atma and prepared herself in a stance, while Sabin strapped on his claw and Shadow withdrew several shuriken.
Let's finish this bastard off!
Celes ordered, and with that, signaled for the attack. Shadow launched some of his stars, and despite the raging wind, they flew through the air and struck Funbaba in his head and chest. Despite the oozing substance coming from the wounds, it did not do much to slow Funbaba down. Sabin and Celes followed up with dual strikes from their weapons, but Funbaba's flesh was as hard as armor, and Celes practically felt Atma bounce off of him like a rubber ball. As Sabin was briefly massaging his sore wrist, and several more stars flew out, Funbaba let out a grunt, took a deep breath, and sneezed. The sensation was like nothing Celes had ever felt before. She felt herself blowing backward as if she weighed nothing, and bounced off the ground once before being tossed into the flooded lake and plunging under. Sabin, crying out as he flew backward, slammed right into Shadow, who in turn smashed into the post office, and both blacked out instantly. Funbaba sneered, let out a low sort of cackle, and began to stomp towards the post office, his ultimate goal. Meanwhile, underground, Chere gasped and jumped as she had the heavy thump against the post office's side, and was horrified when all fell quiet. Before, she could hear the others fighting and shouting to each other. But now. And then she heard it. Those horrid, heavy footsteps. She knew what that meant.
My friends!
She whimpered, feeling tears drip down her cheeks.
I sent them out there. To their deaths.
Before she could stop herself, Chere bolted upstairs, and threw the door to the post office open. Collapsed around the corner were Sabin and Shadow. Celes's body had surfaced in the shallow lake, and was half lain out on the bank, her legs still dangling in the water.
Funbaba!
Chere cried, her eyes starting to glow a soft ruby as she clenched her fists.
You will pay!
In a rush of warm and electric current running through her veins, Chere felt, for the first time in 2 years, her transformation break through and completely consume her once more. She forgot the sensational high she felt, the feeling that she had 1,000,000 megawatts of energy coursing through her body instead of mere mortal blood. Her hair, long, white, and shining, fell down her back, and before she could even comprehend it, she had raised her hand, casting 5 Thundaga spells in succession. Each one struck Funbaba, instantly paralyzing him and rendering him powerless. In a final blow, Chere cupped her hands together, and felt blazing hot atoms begin to gather and fester. Glaring at Funbaba, she pushed her hands out, and called the chant.
Flare!
In a burst of flame and bright red light, Funbaba howled in pain and began to slowly melt into a mess of green flesh and ooze, sinking into the wet soil of the ground before disappearing completely, all the grass on top instantly turning brown and dead. At that instant, the sky let out another rip of thunder, lightning struck, and rain began to pour down in buckets. Chere panted out, wiped the sweat from her face, and flew, yes, flew, over to the guys, where she lifted them away from each other gently and cast a life spell on each to revive them from their blackouts. She then schemed the air over to Celes, lifted her completely from the water, and checked her breathing. She was alive. And so she too, got a life spell. As her friends started to wake up, Chere looked around, satisfied in knowing that Funbaba would never set foot on Mobli's soil again. However, when she looked towards the open doorway of the post office, she let out a surprised cry. Standing there, in complete shock, were several of the children, as well as Katerin and Dwayne. They were staring at Chere with eyes full of fear. No, not fear. Absolute terror. Of course. Chere thought to herself, her heart nearly breaking. I must look like a monster to them in my Esper form.
I'm afraid.
A little boy cried, and buried his head in Cere's stomach.
I'm always afraid.
A little girl, however, broke through the crowd, and walked right up to Chere, grabbing her hand, and staring deep into her pupil-less eyes.
Mama? It's you, isn't it? I can tell.
She said softly, and Chere nodded. The girl smiled happily, and squeezed Cere's hand tighter.
Mama?
Another girl asked, and a boy joined in.
Mama? Chere!
Chere exclaimed, and waved happily.
Chere, you are so beautiful and incredible,
A voice said behind her.
and a pretty damn good shot,
Another joined. Chere turned, and saw her three friends smiling behind her. She ran over to them, hugging all three of them tightly, and crying happily.
You guys! I can fight! I can!
She pulled away, and smiled as she wiped her tears.
Finally! I understand the feeling that has been inside of me all this time. Even though I kept it buried for so long. Afraid I would lose it. I know that it can't go away. I know. Because it's love.
She sniffled more.
And now I know. I can't just stay here. I have to go, and fight for the future of our children.
Chere rose into the air, and turning, directed her voice towards all her children.
Dwayne. Chere is going to need your help. And so is your new baby. Listen, children. Your mama has to go away for a while. I'll return when I know your future is guaranteed.
Chere looked around, but didn't see any sad faces. She saw nothing but eyes full of pride and love, and instantly felt like she was about to melt.
Mama! I'm not gonna cry.
A girl exclaimed.
Me neither, Mama. I'll be back.
Chere cried.
I promise. Until then, you all behave.
She took one last look, and before she could stop herself from going, she flew out of Ma Bliss, flew until the falcon came into view. A little tired now, Chere landed on the ground and transformed back to her old self, wrapping her hair back into a ponytail by the time Celes, Sabin, and Shadow had managed to escape the throng of children and make it back to the ship. Chere waved, and when they came over, she cleared her throat.
Thank you,
Chere said, looking at Celes, then Sabin, then Shadow. Turning, she saw that all the others had appeared on the deck of the ship, and were watching her from above, waving and smiling. Never feeling like she missed her friends more, Chere smiled back, and spoke a little louder.
You helped me understand a part of myself. Now, No, we must go to war. We must all believe that we have a future. We must fight for those who aren't even born yet. That's right, Chere.
Setzer called from the deck.
Preach it, sugar baby.
Edgar cooed, and Chere turned red. Okay. Some things, she certainly had not missed. That night, after everyone got dried off and settled, Chere knocked on Celes's door, and asked if she could come in.
Sure.
Celes called, and Chere stepped in, wrapped in a cozy bathrobe, her hair in a ponytail again. Celes set aside a piece of paper she had been reading, and Chere sat down beside her on the bed.
"There's something I need to tell you,"
Chere said, and Celes looked up, alarmed.
"It's nothing bad,"
Chere exclaimed, raising her hands.
"Although it could turn bad." "What is it?"
Celes asked.
It's about one of our returners,"
Chere said.
"Strago, specifically." "Strago?"
Celes asked, her eyebrows raised. She remembered her conversation with Realm earlier, and swallowed nervously.
"Did something happen to him?" "Sort of,"
Chere said, and looked down at her feet.
"You see, there is this tower that is not so far away from here. It's not the same as Kefka's tower, but it is similar. It was built by Kefka's fanatics, and now they all live in it and guard it, because supposedly, there is a great treasure there. However, there isn't really a way to confirm that rumor, because the fanatics will absolutely not speak to anyone except to their god. And you can guess who that is." "What does this have to do with Strago?"
Celes asked.
"I'm getting to that,"
Chere said.
"While attempting to do some exploring on my own, before I got too weak, I actually passed by the tower, and believe it or not, I was brave enough to step in. There, I saw a line of fanatics marching in front, and in that line was Strago." "What?"
Celes cried.
"So Strago is alive?" "Yes,"
Chere said.
"But he wouldn't speak a word to me, or even acknowledge that I was there. I think he was completely brainwashed." "Oh no!"
Celes sighed, and leaned back against her pillow.
"Realm will be crushed if she hears that. She was just crying to me today about how she thinks Strago is dead." "But that's the thing,"
Chere said, and widened her eyes.
"I think that Realm might just be the person to get through to him."
Celes blinked.
"Why do you say that?"
Suddenly, the girls heard a crash outside their door, and a high-pitched string of curses.
"What the hell was that? What kind of shitty operation do you run here, Setzer?" "Okay, point taken,"
Celes said, and Chere smiled weakly.
"Yes. She's quite a rambunctious girl. I did not think that would change in a mere 2 years."
Chere looked over Celes's shoulder to the paper.
"What is that?" "This?"
Celes asked, and picked it up, handing it to Chere.
"I actually found it in Ozer's house, on a portrait of the Emperor. There is writing on the back."
Chere took it, and read aloud.
"The treasure is hidden where the mountains form a star."
She looked up.
"What does that mean?" "I don't know."
Celes bit down on her lip.
"I don't understand it at all. And I mean, it's just treasure. But for some reason, it's calling strongly to me. Like there is something more than meets the eye." "Have you shown the others yet?"
Chere asked, and Celes shook her head.
"No. Maybe another time. Right now, things are hectic." "Of course. We should all get some rest tonight, and go and see Strago tomorrow." "Right."
Celes smiled.
"And on that note, I think I'll do just that." "Me too."
Chere smiled, and got up. After reaching the doorway, she looked to Celes.
I missed you. I missed you too, Chere.
Celes replied, a little sadly. Chere bit down on her lip.
I know you miss him too. What?
Celes questioned, and Chere wondered if she should go on. Was she just ripping open a wound?
Good night, Celes.
With that, Chere turned, and closed the door behind her softly. The next morning, Celes and Chere took it upon themselves to reintroduce Realm to Strago. Waking her up and dragging her outside, the girls decided to just walk to the tower, and have Setzer follow behind in case they needed a quick escape.
What are we doing?
Realm whined.
I don't think now is a good time for girly gossip or whatever it is you broads do. Shut up, Realm.
Celes gritted her teeth together, wondering if this was really worth the trouble.
Yes. Do be quiet,
Chere said, polite as usual.
or else I'll kick your ass.
Celes snapped. With that, Realm kept quiet. The tower, as old and rotting as a Zozo building, soon came into view, and Celes and Chere could spot the marchers in front of it, just like Chere had described. They were guarding a staircase that led right into the straight column building, and on the outside balconies, several fanatics, all dressed in red and white ceremonial robes and masks that covered their faces, constantly climbed up and down the same flight of stairs, as if they didn't know where to go. Seeing this, Celes turned to Chere and whispered.
How do we know which one is Strago? They all look the same. You'll know, trust me.
Chere whispered back, and Realm pouted.
WTF you guys?
Shh! Chere cried.
We don't know if these guys are dangerous or not. Exactly. Then why are we here?
Realm shrieked.
Look, over there.
Celes suddenly gasped, and pointed. There, marching in line, with his robes on backwards and his mask missing, was Strago. He was marching in perfect beat with the others, his eyes vacant and glazed over. After Celes's pointing and calling out, he didn't even flinch. In fact, no one moved an inch, except to continue marching.
Grandpa?
Realm trailed off, and narrowed her eyes.
That can't be him. He's not even looking at us. Realm, he may be brainwashed.
Chere began to explain.
But, perhaps, if you went over and gently shook his conscience. Hey!
Realm had bolted off, shoving away a fanatic in the line of marchers and blocking Strago's path. Despite Realm being right in front of him, he lifted his legs as if he intended to still march, but kept his same spot.
You!
Realm squealed, and reached up, giving Strago a hard smack across the cheek.
You old fool! You're still standing!
Strago blinked, shook his head, and suddenly looked down in Realm, gasping.
Realm! Is that you, my dear? You're alive! Idiot!
Realm snapped.
Of course I'm all right. Oh Realm!
Strago suddenly hugged her, and cried happily.
I'm so happy. It feels like just yesterday I was grasping for your hand on that horrible airship accident. Oh please!
Realm rolled her eyes, and pulled away.
Did you think I was gonna check out before you, old man? Ah ha 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 ha.
Strago pulled back, surprised, and burst into a happy grin.
Oh, you're as foul-mouthed as ever, bless your heart.
Realm smiled at this, and hugged her grandpa for real this time.
Come along now. We're all glad to see you.
Strago looked up, and saw Celes and Chere waving. Smiling, he waved back.
Whoa now. Will I'll be? All right, Realm. Make room for me.
That night, at dinner, which was another celebratory one, thanks to Strago's return, Setzer announced that he thought the returners should go back up north, and navigate Narsh.
We can check and see if we still have allies up there,
he said.
We know there aren't any more Imperial soldiers around, but there still may be other returners. Oh, that would be wonderful,
Chere said.
I would be so happy if I could see Arvis and Bannon and the others who helped us again. Then we'll go tomorrow morning,
Celes said.
But tonight, we'd better stop in somewhere and get lots of furs. It's going to be a cold mission. That's a good idea, Celes,
Sabin offered.
Although, wearing fur is sort of ethically wrong, and… Brother, you can freeze to death if you want, but the rest of us want to survive to kick Kefka's ass,
Edgar said, and looked over at Sabin slyly.
Besides, I don't think it's ethical to wear that tiger tooth necklace you got there, either.
Sabin turned red, immediately pulled up his muscle shirt collar, and cleared his throat. 41. Dancing Mad, Mog. Chapter End.